What does it mean that the world is an illusion? Is the world really an illusion? The thing is, once the personality falls away, you start to see what the ancient Indians called the subtle world. So the material world we perceive every day is not an illusion, it's just not everything. It's only an aspect of what is. It's not all. So to assume that this material, this gross world that we usually talk about as the world, the reality, is everything, that's the illusion. So it's not an illusion. Try to run against the wall and see if it's an illusion. It's not, of course. But that's not all. So after the personality starts to disintegrate, you see that it's only a program, a process. You can see the subtle world. And then in the subtle world, there are even more traps than in the gross world. But once you see through those illusions, you can see what the ancient Indians called the mental world. The mental world, it's a weird term, I don't know why they called it the mental world. It has nothing to do with the mind. Probably because there's direct knowledge. It's not diluted and filtered and distorted like in the gross and the subtle sphere. So here you can have direct knowledge. And intuition is the only way to take decisions. There's no more thinking. And after the mental world, it is said that there's only the divine. And those people who have seen beyond the mental world into the divine, those were called the avatars, because they saw through all illusions, which of course they're not illusions in itself, in themselves. They're aspects. So there's the gross world, the subtle world, the mental world, and then there's the divine. And they're all aspects of the same thing, of creation, of Maya, of reality. But reality is manifold. And it all starts with not taking your ego, your personality, your mind seriously anymore. They're not necessarily enemies, but they're not your friends either. They're the outermost layer of the illusion, of the many, many veils and layers of Maya. So when a sage says or writes that everything is illusion, or everything is the Brahman or whatever, it means that what we usually perceive as reality is only a small part of what is actually happening. It is happening, but because it's only a small part, it's also not the most important part. To only focus on the gross, on the material world, is like only focusing on the skin of a person. Say, I can only see the skin, so assume that the person is hollow inside. This is not true. There are organs and muscles and bones and arteries and so on inside, and somewhere there's also a mind, which is even invisible, but it is there. So that's a good comparison. The gross world is only the skin and the hair and the clothes. The subtle world is the organs and the tissues and the bones and the arteries and the blood and the brain and so on. And the mental world is what we cannot see. The mind and the soul and the emotions and so on. And the divine is basically to see that everything is only atoms and electrons. So at some point, physics and natural science will agree with spiritual science For example, those of the Vedas and Upanishads and Buddhism. But people try to focus already on the divine and on the mental world. And this is a jump you cannot do. First, you have to acknowledge and realize with your whole being that the physical world is only one aspect and not the most important one. And then you have to explore the subtle sphere. And only afterwards you can explore those things that the enlightened gurus talk about. So don't try to jump ahead. Try to find out first what the subtle sphere is. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing and joining me on Patreon or Facebook. And see you soon.